January 12th of the new year, 2021, and this is a meeting of the Morrill Memorial Library Board of Trustees. You'll see a lot of new faces if you're watching this later on. And so I want to, before we do anything else, I'd like to do welcome and introductions. I'm the current chair for a few more months of the board, and I'm going to go down and up on my my screen. So second up is Casey Argiro.
Hi, I'm Casey. I'm the administrative assistant at the library. I'm also the recording secretary.
And the only person to helpfully put the pronunciation of her last name in her that's high class quality detail. Next up is Donna Montgomery. Donna.
Donna Montgomery, I'm a trustee.
And after that is Mary Paz. Oh, you need to unmute Mary Paz. There you go.
Hello. Hi, I'm Mary Paz, and I'm just visiting the meeting tonight because I'm interested in running for a position as a trustee.
Brian DeFelice.
I'm Brian DeFelice, Information Technology Librarian.
Sarah Beck.
I'm Sarah Begg, and I am one of the current library trustees.
George Michaelick.
Yep. Hi, I'm George Michaelick, and I'm a current library trustee.
Clayton Cheever.
Good. Hello, whatever time you're watching. Good evening, everyone joining us live. I'm the incoming library director. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Clayton, remind everybody when you officially come on board.
My first day will be Monday, February 8th.
Excellent.
So I'm visiting tonight and just getting my feet wet, basically.
All right. Charlotte?
I'm Charlotte Kennelly, current library director, and my last day should be January 29th when I retire. And I've been library director for 12 years, and Sarah Begg has been on the board at least a few years before me. So she's the reigning expert.
No one, I think, would argue with that characterization. Nope. Marguerite Cummings.
I'm Marguerite Cummings. I'm one of the board of trustees members.
And Marguerite is the current vice chair for those keeping titles. Lydia Sampson.
Hi, I'm Lydia. I'm the assistant director at the library.
Thanks, Lydia. Shannon Greenwald.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shannon. I'm also visiting for the evening and thinking about running for a position.
Later on, we may or will be joined by a couple of other people. One is Eric Bodenhofer, who is also, like Shannon and Mary Paz, considering whether to run for the office for a full year to fill the last year of the late Leah O'Leary's term. And the other is Joe Greeley, who we have put forward to the Board of Selectmen as a recommended candidate for the short period of time before the election to fill out that part of Leah's term. And they may be meeting with us on January the 26th, when there is currently tentatively scheduled to be a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Library Trustees to vote on who that new trustee will be. Joe has already indicated that he will not be running for the full year. So pay close attention to everybody whose name I mentioned, because they're likely to be part of your choices at some point or another.
And Joe was on the search committee for the new director. So he was, sort of somebody who would be good for the couple months.
Right. We'll have a chance to come back to our visitors later on, and maybe they can then tell us a bit more about their experience and their interest in the library, potential interest. For now, let's go back into the agenda. We start with the consent agenda. which includes the minutes of the previous meeting in December, the only part of the consent agenda that requires a vote, and also a number of the director's reports, especially the financial report. So, Charlotte, do you want to give us any headlines on the reports? Anything you want to draw our attention to?
No, but I do want to say that I did miss, in the packet, you have December 7th. And that was a meeting that we determined that Casey had not attended. And so I wrote up the minutes from that meeting. And that's also in your packet, but it's not listed on the consent agenda, but you'll be approving those tonight as well.
Hmm.
I will be putting together my mid-year financial report for the February packet. And because I explain everything in detail for that report, because I won't be there, there won't be any reason why you will need me to explain anything in that. It'll be pretty self-explanatory, letting you know where we sit mid-year. And there wasn't time in the first couple days of January to get that together.
Charlotte, can you give us any key dates or projected dates for the process of preparing and finalizing the FY22 budget?
I did submit the personnel sheets. They were due before Christmas, and those have been submitted. What we do is we all go into an open area and we all complete our part of the report. And those were submitted. The only thing that was different than last year were all of the raises that are in the seasonal and temporary rates for part-timers. Those were included, and any step increases were included, but no COLI was included. So it looks, it's pretty flat. There's a slight increase. The other part, which would be the incidentals part of the budget, has not been asked for as yet. But I will prepare a skeleton of that. I imagine we haven't gotten instructions, and if there are instructions to either cut it or submit a level funded budget, that skeleton will be there for you to work with.
Great, thank you. Anybody have any other questions before I invite a motion to approve the minutes? Seeing none, I invite that motion. Donna, you're voting, moving that we approve the minutes. Anyone second?
Sure, I'll second.
George seconds. Any discussion on the minutes? You've all had a chance to see them.
Mhm. No.
Not seeing any, then I'll call for the roll call vote. Because this is a remote meeting, all votes are done roll call style. That's a requirement, I believe, of the state. So Donna, how do you vote?
I vote to approve.
And Sarah?
I vote to approve.
George?
I vote to approve.
Marguerite?
Yes, I vote to approve.
And so do I. So that's unanimous. Next up on the agenda is the usual comment on how we don't have a physical presence of the warrant. Charlotte, would you like to give us your usual explanation for those who are new to the party?
Well, normally the warrant contains all of the books and materials, and Casey will normally present that and bring that to a board meeting, and the board signs off on it. But because we aren't doing that right now, because it's virtual, Casey is just paying those invoices as she gets them.
Casey, were you signaling to be heard? Okay. Next up then is correspondence. Charlotte?
The only correspondence we had relates to the Simone fund, the Simone Scholarship Fund, which is a letter from Stuart Plumer to the Simone Foundation as a thank you. What we don't have in here is the Monahan Fund, and the two literacy librarians, Kirsty David and Norma Logan, usually write a thank you. And there's a thank you from the board and from me that goes to the Simone Foundation. The Simone scholarship, the Simone Fund, which is the Monahan Fund, sorry, it's not the scholarship fund. It goes right into the Monahan Fund, and it supports our literacy program. We have received as little as $4,000. Most of the time it's been about $5,000, occasionally $6,000. But this year it was $8,000. Now that money will go into the Monahan Fund, which is separate from the literacy grant, which is Literacy Volunteers of Massachusetts. And the trustees are responsible for that oversight of all library funds that are held with the town. But in this case, if there's a use for funds from the Monahan Fund, from the literacy department, that needs to go to the trustees, and they need to approve that. And if you looked on your special funds report, you would see that the Monahan Fund now has $51,000 in it, or almost close to 52, which is a healthy amount. The last large amount that we paid was for the wall between those, the sound wall between the study rooms. And so if there are uses that the literacy department and the library can both benefit from, that will be brought forward to the board. But it now stands at 52,000.
Thanks. Anyone have any questions about the correspondence? Marguerite, yes?
Was there a letter from the Girl Scouts?
We
A
did
letter
get,
from the Girl Scouts requesting to set up a little drive-through in the parking lot?
That was it. Yeah, that was an email I just sent to you. I forwarded it to you yesterday, the day before. And that didn't make the packet because that was just received. So I forwarded that on to you because I didn't think it would be appropriate for me to make a decision on that, because that looks like something that would be in the future, right, Sarah? And
So
it was.
We're going to wait till
email from-
February?
Sarah?
I can speak to it. The Girl Scout Council that our town is a part of has decided to move forward and allow contact-free booth sales. And I am one of the scout leaders in town, and we were trying to figure out potential safe locations where the girls and their parents and any potential customers would be able to safely and far away from traffic, etc., be able to do this. And one of the suggestions that came up was that with the library not being open on Sundays, because we're not doing Sunday service now, or I guess Sunday was pretty much the main one, was that this would be a potential location. And so we've sent out asks of several different places in town, the library being one of them, because we do have a decent parking lot, and it's not super crowded at that time. So.
Marguerite?
What would be the library's liability in the case of, say, an accident, in the parking lot there?
It's the town, Marguerite. The town is liable for anything.
So does it have to be run by the town?
I don't know. In the past, I don't know if we've ever even allowed anything. I'm trying to think if we've ever allowed anything in the parking lot from a group before.
We had a blood drive.
Yeah, we did. We had a blood drive, right? And we did not. We announced it to the town. I think actually That we definitely made the town aware of it, but we decided that on our own. I think it's a case where the board could decide and just get the town's approval, just get a notice to the town that it was going to occur.
I guess in this time of COVID, I would be more comfortable if we got some reaction, hopefully approval from both Tony Mizuko and our health director, so that we'll be more protected. Personally, I think it sounds like a terrific idea, one we should want to encourage. As somebody who has bought these cookies in the past out of the trunk of Sarah's car, I know great demand. But I would be more comfortable, I think, if we ran it by those two individuals. And would that be better coming from the board or coming from you, Charlotte?
I'd be happy to run it by Tony and Segal tomorrow, and then let you know. But Sarah, when does that drive start?
Officially, they've stated that people can start to order cookies for said purposes, and I think get them in hand by the end of January. And the cookie sale season only lasts until the first weekend in March anyway. So it would primarily be looking at potential Sundays in the month of February. And again, we understand that weather is a factor. That's always been something we've been up against when we were able to be in front of businesses like Stop and Shop or CVS. But with all of the distancing regulations that are now required for the safety aspects of COVID, we would need to have it with the troops that would be involved bringing multiple tables, one to take orders and payment, and then a separate table far enough away to put those boxes into a bag to contact free, put them into the trunk, kind of like what we had been doing when we started with the book pickups. So
And Sarah, where they're going to ask, where are you, where are they thinking of, you know, how there's a gentle slope? Are they thinking in front of the doors of the library? Are you thinking further up where they're near the book drop where there's no slope? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, in the little mental image that I came up with to even find feasible locations, I was thinking that maybe we would have one table near the doors, the side doors of the library, so that that would be the order taking location. And then back near where the herb garden is, might be a better location to have the cookie pickup itself, so that if there were multiple cars close to each other, that there was distance and space in between.
You can almost have sort of drive up in that area. Yeah, that's a good idea to keep the cars totally separate. Okay, I will talk to Tony and Segal tomorrow, and so this would start before your next board meeting. I'm not sure that you need to take a vote on this. This seems sort of more procedural. What anybody thoughts?
Do you have a thought on that, Donna?
Yeah, I think probably it would be a good idea to take a vote in case we do need to have a vote.
Okay.
You know,
So if it's okay with the
Um,
town, so if somebody wants to propose the motion, okay.
Yes. Would anyone like to offer a motion along the lines Charlotte just mentioned?
I make a motion that the Girl Scouts be given authority to have a cookie drive in the parking lot.
If the
During the
town,
month of February.
If the town approves.
do we want to specify February or just during their normal season, which might include a weekend or two in March? Yeah.
Just whatever they need to get their cookie drive done during their cookie drive season.
Okay.
Or
Okay, so
this year.
I'll read
Only for this year.
that back.
Bernie seasoned all.
The board approves of the Girl Scout request to make the parking lot available for Girl Scout cookie distribution in accordance with their the specs in their memo and in accordance with approval from the town, which will be solicited by us. It's
Is
probably
that you
worth,
seconding me? Is that you seconding me? Are you making a motion?
yes, let's call it that.
Let's call it what? You're making a motion or you're seconding me?
I was actually not doing either. I was trying to put all the,
Figure out what your motion was, Marguerite.
You were telling me how to make a motion.
I stopped
Okay,
talking.
John made a motion. Who wants to
Is there a
second?
second?
I'll second John's motion.
All right, good.
Oh dear. Any further discussion, God help us.
I'll take a pin mint.
Okay. Roll call vote. Donna? Donna, how do you vote?
I approve.
And Sarah?
I approve.
George?
I approve.
Marguerite?
I approve.
And I approve. So unanimous. Yes, Sarah.
And Charlotte, please either you already have the contact information for my co-chair, Ann Phillips, but I am also, as you know, always accessible, and I'm the co-chair of the service unit, so.
Okay, and I'll Lydia, do you want to take the first Sunday would be the 7th. So if you just want to make the staff and custodians aware if this goes forward.
Yep.
Okay. I will let you all know in an update.
Charlotte? If that item has been successfully taken care of, we're up to item 4, old business, of which the first is noise in the library and teen behavior, which is hard to have if there's nobody in the library.
Right, right. It's pretty quiet. So there's no noise in the library beyond the staff feeling free to yell across the room nowadays. But other than that, it's pretty quiet.
Okay, the next big item on our list is item B, 4B, strategic plan 2022 to 2026. You will all have received a copy of a proposal from Bernie Lynch, who recently was very successful in helping us to select Clayton as our new director. And he has provided a proposal for leading us or helping to coordinate us in the preparation of the strategic plan that is due. Some of the context for this is that because we've had to deal with some other things, we're operating a more compressed schedule than we have in the past and normally would do. And so Bernie's proposal would actually start picking up the thing formally in this month of January. And that's one important reason why I'm glad Clayton is here, because we want him to be very comfortable with what's going on and how it's being scheduled and handled. So we'll need and the price of the proposal is just under $10,000, which means it is not necessary to use the rather time-consuming process of putting it out for 3 bids and then selecting the winning bid from among them. And what happens in the first few months is a lot of startup on data gathering exercises, like opinions of focus group of the staff as well as of the community. There are a variety of these that have been done in the past, and I think Bernie is planning to do them all again. An important part of this is identifying the committee that will be overseeing this. And I believe that committee is Marguerite and Donna and me, plus from the library, Clayton and Lydia, and 2 other people who we were going to select based on expressed interest. The only staff member with expressed interest that I haven't seen is Kate Teig, and I certainly think she would make an excellent addition. I know I'm springing this on Brian, but I would like him to be on the committee as well. It is reliably true every year that there's a focus on some IT goals and projects, and I figure he would be a person particularly well equipped to address that and probably other things as well.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Brian. To my knowledge, that fills out the committee. Is if it's got those 7 people. Charlotte?
Yes, although the last
Casey be part of
plan,
it too?
what's that?
Will Casey be part of it too?
Um,
I offered myself up as recording secretary if you need minutes. That way I can participate in the next strategic plan.
that's great. Charlotte, you were starting to,
Well, and I do believe the last committee did involve some people from the community other than just a focus group, as I recall. So we might want to take a look at, you might want to take a look at that and maybe find when you have your first meeting, which would include all of these people, and with the consultant that you choose, you probably want to take a look at maybe getting people from the community involved, other than just as a focus group, but actual involvement. And I know that the staff, the leadership team especially, is very interested in working with the strategic plan, which I think will be a very good idea. You know, really taking not a lead of being on the committee, but really taking a lead on certain projects.
so there may be subcommittees, if you will, that include people who are not on the main committee as well as some who are.
I think that would be the first thing that you will want to decide after you meet. Your very first meeting will be, you know, how you will bring the community and the rest of the staff into this, you know, in a really proactive way.
Okay. I don't know that we actually need, we do need a vote on whether to accept the proposal from Bernie. I don't think we actually need a vote on the people on the committee.
Right.
So if I would certainly accept the sense of the board, if it is the sense of the board, that we include the 7 people I listed with others who may be added in the early days of the committee's operation. Does anyone have any thoughts? Sarah, please.
I was just going to ask Charlotte, we probably need to make a motion for the expenditure of the money for
Yeah.
which account would you recommend?
I would think state aid would be the most appropriate. I think that was where we paid the consultant last time and where we took a lot of our costs, because we had actual meetings at the library and refreshments and various other things. The cost of Survey Monkey in order to do the survey and printing and various things like that. And because state aid is so healthy, right now our state aid account, before we received this this year's state aid, which will be close to, may even be over $40,000. Our state aid right now sits at 73,000, which is the most there's ever been in state aid since I came to the library. So we will be well over $100,000, probably even for the first payment, which will be half of which will be about 20, which will come sometime, I believe, in February. I think they're going to vote on this in January. Not quite sure at this point because the governor did sign the budget. I think that's a real appropriate use, that fund.
Not seeing anybody jumping in. Sarah, please.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the contract with Bernie in the amount of $9,980 and pay for it from state aid.
We did pay it in two parts last time, so I'm not really quite sure. I don't, was there anything in there about the payment, John? I'm not sure because I'm not sure how
Didn't
the,
vote on it, but I think Sarah's motion is flexible enough to
okay,
any payment schedule we settle on, that I'm sure that the proposal or Bernie or both will speak to. We could use a second.
I'll second that.
Okay. Further discussion.
Yes, I'd like to say one thing. There was also a statement that Bernie put in his proposal that in addition to his fee, that any monies that were needed for other things, as you said, for printing, et cetera, would be above and beyond that. Would that also come from state aid? Would we also tap? Okay.
yeah. I think the state aid is so healthy right now. Revolving fund is not as healthy. You know, had we been doing passports like crazy, well, actually, we couldn't have paid it from revolving fund. It would have to come from endowment, state aid, Cushing, one of the others, but state aid makes the most sense.
And do you recall what the, just a ballpark, what the total sum of the incidentals were last time this was done? Is it a large sum or a small sum?
It was relatively small.
Okay.
Mhm. I mean, I don't recall, but I would think it was under $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Donna,
I'm just curious if that additional amount of money for printing and rooms and so on will affect it being at under $10,000.
wouldn't matter.
No, it's his contract that needs to be under $10,000.
Okay,
Not the total. Yeah, no.
all right.
And I think as we do with a lot of other things, the director will be in a position to authorize and decide on the source from funds for small expenditures as we go along. We won't be facing the need for constant board motions to make all that happen.
Right.
Any other discussion before we vote on the motion? Seeing none. Donna, how do you vote?
I approve.
Sarah?
I approve.
George?
I approve.
Marguerite?
Yes, I approve.
And I approve. Now, the next step after this, I think, is that Charlotte or and I think it's Charlotte, maybe Charlotte and Clayton even though he's not official, should communicate to Bernie that we picked it up and we're looking forward to working with him. At that point, we'll need to try to look for a convenient time to meet with Bernie as a committee. And just at least make sure that we're doing in January the things that were anticipated being done or started in January. And
Well, we have that timeline, so I think that you will be able to stick pretty well, pretty closely to that.
Yep. So when you send the note through to Bernie saying we're a go on this, please encourage him to either contact me or expect a contact from me to figure out what is a good day and time for that first meeting sometime in January.
Sometime in February, in January. You are looking for Bernie to meet with you, with the entire committee in January?
Unless his own timeline doesn't anticipate meeting before February, and I know it anticipates some activity in January.
It might be enough to meet with you and me and Clayton maybe over Zoom, just to kind of get, yeah. So, yeah, that might be a good idea. And then you can, decide on your communication to the entire committee and what their responsibilities are and the timeline. It'd be helpful for Brian, for instance, to see that, Brian and Lydia to see the timeline.
So can we let Kate know as of tomorrow that she's on the committee?
Yeah, she might like to know.
Yes.
I'll let her know. I'll be in. I'll let her know.
She wanted to be on. It's not like we.
It was a beautiful letter she wrote. She wrote a beautiful letter. She should be told by the committee that she's on.
Over the next couple of days, I'm going to take another look at the proposal in detail and sketch out what I think that conversation with Bernie and me and Charlotte and Clayton, what it's most important for us to set in motion. So
And yep.
Go ahead.
Well, and the timeline can be extended, which is what the MBLC, Rob Favini, will work with us so that the timeline can extend further than October 1st. And I think that'll take some of the pressure off of everyone.
I'd rather not take the pressure off early.
Okay. Hey, I'm not around.
We're going to be into places where we need to extend, and I'd rather not do it just because it's there to be used. But it's a good reminder still, so at least we don't go into panic mode.
Right.
There'll be plenty of occasions to do that too.
That October 1st deadline comes pretty fast.
Yep. And if you extend it, you wind up passing it on Halloween, and that's a bad omen. Anything more on the strategic plan and next few days? Okay. The next item on the list is the FY22 library budget, which we've already discussed. Then we have a few reports. You want to give us any top lines on those three reports, Charlotte?
Well, the programming report is just, everyone is doing everything virtually. They're doing just a tremendous job. One of the things that I would bring up, John, I don't know if you had a chance to look at your email from Kate Teig about the pajama drive this year, which the MBLC is not taking a real active role in, but they are going forward with. So it's sort of this. So I think it doesn't need a vote by the board or anything like that. But Kate and John will be talking about, I think, about where we will go from here. I think Kate they will not. There's no pajamas being transported by MLS vans this year. So they can be delivered to Newton. So I think Kate's going to reach out to you, Clayton, and if she hasn't already, and give you an update on where The competition has been between Bourne and Norwood for several years now, but I think that this year is an exception. So anyway, I think you'll be talking with Kate, John.
Kate had a recommendation memo, which was that we not try to gear up a drive in Norwood. We've got literally hundreds of pajamas left over that Jean and I donated that never quite made it out of the Norwood Library over to the main collection. And if we just
because of COVID.
Yeah, because of COVID. So if we just limit it to whatever they can and will take out of that group and then on to the next year, Jean and I would be fine with that. Sounds like that's Kate's recommendation. So if you can pass that on to her, and then if she wants to talk further about it, we're more than willing and available to do that. Anything else under programming, maintenance, repair, personnel reports? I know there is an item in here, an IT assistant, I think it is.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. First, maintenance and repair. Jim and I are hoping to meet with Paul Riccardi before I leave to sort of pass on all the information I have on the library and where we sit. And we still have some windows that need to be replaced that I would like Jim to schedule. We do have 6 months left, so there is some time. And that linoleum in the back hallway would be great because we do have the funds in our actual library budget. And those funds will be, I believe, transferred to the townwide facilities for July 1st of next year. So we won't get those funds anymore, and those will be determinations by townwide facilities as to what gets done. But I do think they'll take good care of our building. We do have capital money for painting, but Kathy Carney is so busy with other contracts. This could be something that gets put off. The money could go into, capital money can be put into an encumbrance fund. We've done that several years. We no longer have any encumbered funds whatsoever, right, Casey, for any capital projects. Those are all gone now. But it's possible that this will be something that they will not do until the next fiscal year, but the money just kind of rolls over. What happens is we encumber it. So, and that will be a huge job, and they will be, putting that out to bid. I think it's $120,000 they have in capital funds for painting the interior of the library. And other than that, there's nothing to report on for maintenance and repair. Jim really has put us in just terrific shape by taking care of everything year after year after year. And we're a beautifully maintained building. So that's that. Sorry?
Just a question. Is snow removal part of what gets transferred, or does that remain with this?
No, I believe snow removal will be transferred too. That was all part of that townwide facilities budget that we had to prepare. Snow removal, service contracts, maintenance and repair, and some of the building supplies. And I sent a memo to Paul a couple months ago explaining what all those were, and I'm hoping that the budget committee is looking at all of those and that they don't take away. I requested that they leave about $1,000 to $2,000 for small repairs, things that Jim and Tony need to run to Home Depot and True Value to get. But other than that, the money will all be transferred over. But it looks like the custodians their salaries may not be transferred over as yet. They don't anticipate they'll be able to work with all the custodial unions before July 1st. There's a strong possibility of that. So it may be that the staff stays in the library staff for another year. That's sort of something that's coming. So you'll hear more about that.
Okay, Sarah?
How is this going to affect our 2.5% increase that we need to
How-
maintain?
How this works, and I've been talking to the MBLC for a couple of years about this because we've been anticipating this. As soon as we know that they are taking the money, and as soon as we know the amount, MBLC has to know as soon as possible. And what they do is they adjust our budget and they adjust the MAR. Everything gets adjusted as if we didn't have the money, and as if and that we will not have the money. But it will not affect us in a negative way.
So I shouldn't be losing sleep over this.
No, yeah, don't
Okay.
lose sleep, Sarah. It'll be all set.
Okay.
But somebody's going to have to communicate. Clayton will be communicating with the board about it as soon as we know it's happening. But it's not finalized yet, and it will be. We'll find out during the budget, before the budget hearings. I imagine something's going to come out. Some kind of memo is going to come out at some point in the next couple of weeks. As you know, the budget was always prepared before Thanksgiving before. And in last year and the year before, it's been put off until after the first of the year. So unfortunately, you know, it's a time when it's a little more of a squeeze before town meeting. The time is shorter after the budget has been prepared. The personnel part has been prepared and it's all set. So it's just the incidentals and equipment. Brian's IT line item.
And what
Marguerite?
about the telephone?
We'll have to put that in. I'll put that into what I prepare, the preliminary that I prepare. We need, and you will have to go in front of the finance committee and defend that. And we will be able to show that because Casey has been paying all of the telephone. We have, I don't know what it is right now, Casey. It's probably on the incidentals report. We are in the hole by, I don't remember how much.
I think
So
it's about $800.
$800. So we'll need to put in for probably $1,500. Now that can be taken out of another amount. If we absolutely have to level fund, the money you just take the $1,500 from something else, which might be travel. We have a healthy travel budget, and staff is just not traveling and may not. A lot of meetings may be remote in the future. So that's probably where that could go. And I'll prepare that.
What about the issue with the telephone with the Verizon calls not getting into the? Now, I know this isn't a budget issue, but since we're talking about the telephones,
I'll give you Brian. Brian's working on that.
What is it, Brian? Why is that happening?
So is this in regards to the telephones, like when people are calling from Verizon landlines, it being dropped?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've gotten in contact with town IT at least 2 times about that, and I actually sent a email recently, just last week, to them as well. And I've been told both times that it is an issue on Verizon's end, that it's something that they have to fix. This is a townwide issue. It is not exclusive to the library. I've just sort of honestly been kind of chronicling when this has been happening. I actually have a spreadsheet going. So as staff members start hearing about patrons complaining about it, I'm kind of keeping track of it because I think that it's important that we have something quantifiable to really let them know that this is an issue, particularly for us, but also for the town by and large.
Should we send a social media message to people saying that, we apologize, we recognize that there's an issue with Verizon landlines and we're working on it and the town is aware?
That is excellent.
Because
Yeah,
if there was a patron that was angry about it, if there's one, there's probably more than one.
Yeah.
And
I'll talk to the graphic design Carla tomorrow, and yeah, we can certainly get something out to inform people.
And
Yeah,
then
it is,
maybe they can just email us.
yeah, it's
Which is
frustrating.
what this particular patron did that was
Correct.
angry.
Well, obviously you heard from her, so.
Brian,
I
when you're
mean, they have to get in touch with you, so it's just that they can't get immediate attention that way.
Sorry, John.
uh, no problem. When you're designing the message that you're going to put out,
Mhm.
I really like the tone that Marguerite's suggesting. It's not defensive. It's not cold.
Correct.
It really conveys something more than information of the kind that we want. So
Sure. Okay. We'll be mindful of that.
great. Are we done with?
Maintenance and repair.
Yes. Before we do personnel, we've been joined by Eric Bodenhofer, but I noticed that his picture's not up. And I don't know if that's because he came in by phone. Eric? There he
No,
is.
my picture was not up because I was just sparing you all the image of me.
Oh, false modesty, best kind of all. Okay, good. So we've got all three of our potential candidates pulling papers here. So personnel report, Charlotte. And
Well,
Brian.
you received, Brian did a great job coming up with a job description. We didn't have one for Allison because we hired her, I don't remember how many years ago. And at the time we could hire part-time people into positions without a job description, but that's really changed. HR has changed a lot of things and that's one of them. So Brian very quickly put together something for a job description. It got approved by HR and I put it up, the job up on the MVLC site. And I think, Brian, you put it up in the two colleges, maybe? Simmons and URI, did you? No?
I think I did Simmons. I don't think I did the other one, but I can do that.
And there's an open until filled on that position. So Brian will be taking a look at it. We did receive 26 applications for the adult services position and 5 for outreach. We got those today. We got links to those. It's a little bit, it's difficult for us because a new policy of HR is to send us a link to the files, and all personal information is redacted. And we did not receive any cover letters, which to us has always been the most important part of the application, especially for a professional position. We want to know the candidate's passion for library service. We'd like to know why they want to leave their job, what has motivated them to apply for our job, and that is all missing. All we have are resumes that do not include the candidate's name, address, where they have ever worked, where they graduated from, colleges they graduated from. So we found this out this afternoon, and Liz and I are pretty disappointed because this isn't ever the way that we've ever done, hired anybody before. So I am going to reach out and ask if there's any way we can get redacted cover letters. And what would basically be redacted would be the address of the letter and any pretty much proper noun. We can know their position that they've held, but not where they've held it and the years that they held it, and some of the job description that you would see in a resume. So I'm going to reach out to Molly tomorrow and see if we can get more information, because 26 adult services applicants is a lot of applicants too. We could be losing somebody who would be perfect for the library if we knew what their passion for the position was.
Mhm.
we'll work on that tomorrow. We were very surprised because we've always received the entire package before, which is, I always require, I'm pretty strict about it, about requiring a cover letter, a resume, and a town of Norwood application in one complete PDF, so that nothing gets lost or mixed up or anything like that. And all we got were the resumes. So that's a real huge undertaking. It's a lot more difficult to try to determine who we would be interested in having telephone interviews with, or maybe first initial interviews. We will get the information as soon as we've determined we want to interview them. We will get their complete packets. But the first look is a little disappointing to us. It just feels very incomplete. So I'm not sure. Apparently this is the new trend in HR is to redact some information. For instance, a person's name and address. So anyway, we'll work on that. We were hoping to really get, that going for maybe even Friday of this week, coming up with a list. It probably will take us longer.
Donna, then Lydia, and then I'll comment.
Charlotte, why would they do such a thing? I mean, I can understand name and address and even pronoun, but why would they not let you know where they had worked and
or went to school? But it does list the degree and the year, so that we won't have any bias.
That's what they say.
You can't be trusted, I guess.
Lydia, go ahead.
Well, I'm just wondering about this as a trend in HR, and if anybody has, heard of any other place where they're taking this measure, or maybe among the other directors and in Minuteman or in the state, if anyone else is seeing this happen. It was really surprising to me.
Yeah, we did get it sort of midday, and actually we didn't get the link to the adult cert. We got 2 links to the outreach, and so we had to go back and ask for the correct link. So I wasn't able to really get much further. I was very I was really dismayed, and thought about how much work it's going to be to try to figure out who of these 26 people we may want to interview from this small bit of information. And like I said, the cover letter has always been the most important to me. And Liz Reed actually pointed out that the cover letter is a great communication tool for the applicant, and it gives us a feeling of how they communicate. Now, somebody else could write the cover letter. You don't know for sure, and that's why you interview. But most people do write their own cover letters and spend a lot of time on them. So I am going to ask tomorrow if we got one of the applicants applied for both positions, and we had to clear that up this afternoon first before we even wanted to go forward with anything else. We wanted to find out, is that true, or were the applicants sort of mixed up? And we found out, yes, that one applicant applied for both positions. So we'll go forward with that, but I think it might be a little bit slower process. I sent Clayton the link because Clayton and Liz and Nancy and Kirsty and I will be working on this. And I don't know, Clayton, have you seen any trend like this?
I have not seen this before. This is the first time I've ever seen that kind of redaction, and I've seen a lot of.
It was pretty shocking.
Process quite a bit. Never seen this before.
Yeah, so, it was a little shocking to see so much redacted. So, but I think if she could go through those 26 cover letters, which we may not be able to get HR to do that quickly, if they could go through those somehow and redact all of the information. A cover letter is not going to have much of it. Sometimes a cover letter won't have anything about, that would need to be redacted other than the name and possibly where they, oftentimes cover letters just say, why they want to work at our library and their passion for library service and various things like that. And they might say, when I was at Quincy Public Library, and that could easily be redacted. So we'll see if we can get HR to help us with this. I don't know if they don't really understand that this professional position, these professional positions really require something more than the resume, the redacted resume.
My reaction, Charlotte, is I can understand the way HR people's minds work, that they want to strip out what they think of as soft information. The passion would be top of the list. It sounds emotional rather than rational to people who are inclined to always look at everything in terms of how it might possibly be used illegitimately and not worry so much about what would be used legitimately and would improve the decision. That having been said, I think the idea of not being able to tell the difference between a bachelor's degree from Simmons and a bachelor's degree from closed cover before striking university is absolutely ludicrous. And I can't imagine that that can be defended by anyone who sees the information content of a resume as anything more than checking boxes. I've got a bachelor's degree, on to the next question.
And in this case, it's a master's because that's what's required. And we can cull out those that don't have the master's degree pretty easily. That's one thing we can do, but most of the applicants are going to have the degree.
You know, and the thing is that I wonder if they're aware. I would think this would kind of open up the doors for some sort of like reverse litigation. I mean, if I found out that I had applied for a job and you didn't get a chance to read my cover letter, and all you saw were my bullet points, I'd be very upset. I would think that it's kind of a misrepresentation. You know, and especially when you know, you consider the fact that HR's job is just, you know, they're just a conduit. They're not making that decision. So I'm pretty shocked by that. I really am.
Yeah, and we've only had, you know, I don't know how many hours to even sort of digest this.
Donna.
Charlotte, could you suggest to them, if, once you've weeded out the people that don't have a master's degree, that you really are going to have to interview all of the others?
Yep, that's what Liz Reed would like to do. You know, in the past, we actually, I think we almost got 40. We've had times when we've had almost 40 applicants. And I know that there was a time when I interviewed by phone probably 20 of them. It's very hard, you know, the paper is only so much, and you know, talking to somebody on the phone gives you a better idea. And we've interviewed actually for some candidates in person in the library, you know, 12 candidates, and then narrowed it down to. So anyway, but I know that this is an abbreviated. We're trying to get this going because Clayton will be the person to actually work to make the offer as soon as he can after he starts, because Liz will be alone in the she won't be alone because we've got a whole band of professional librarians who are going to help her out and we're not open to the public, which is probably might be a good time to tell you rather than wait for miscellaneous advisories. But it was Lydia, perhaps you can use the language that from the town department managers meeting this morning about further closure.
Okay, well, following Charlie Baker's recommendations, we're staying, you know, closed to the public for in-person services through the end of the month, and we're going with limited staff in the building for the rest of the month, whereas, you know, we had initially for that to be through Martin Luther King Day. It's also very likely that will be extended for an additional 30 days. And I think the idea is instead of making decisions 1 week at a time or 2 weeks at a time and having to keep putting out new messaging and confusing people, that we may well extend that. And if we're going to just decide up front to do it for the month of February. So Tony Mizuko will be making a more clear-cut decision on that and getting back to us this week. I imagine maybe by Thursday when he does his townwide address.
Which will mean that it takes a lot of the pressure off of the reference department, if that's the case. And that will give us time. We'll have people covering the chat and taking care of reference services when Liz can't be there. If we could get somebody to start March 1st, that would be terrific. And a lot of times at this level, somebody only needs to give 2 weeks notice. So we could have somebody, once they've signed the offer letter, could start in 2 weeks. That's not uncommon at all at that level. So I'll update you in my next update email and let you know how the progress that we've made. I think maybe Clayton and Liz and I will get together maybe somehow in some sort of phone call or something in the next day or so, after we've really taken a look at all 26 and we've determined, what we can do with what we have and whether or not we just decide we want to interview 22 people by phone.
Lydia, you have something more?
Yeah, not to beat a dead horse, but I just wanted to point out while we're all here that even something like the master's degree has not been a deal breaker for us. In even higher level positions, we've hired somebody even at the department head level pending finishing their master's degree. So, I think we really need to see more information about where people have worked and in what position, as well as the cover letters.
If in fact they take a firm position that this is the way it's going to be, full stop, and if you collectively decide that there isn't a single piece of information in what they're allowing you to see that you can in good conscience use to exclude somebody, then what you're left with is, don't bother showing us this. We're going to have to interview everybody. And I don't know what other workaround there is for this environment, but I don't think our history is terribly great about trying to push back on a decision that a department is already firmly committed to.
Right. We'll let Molly know our concerns and the way that we have always operated in the past. And, to be quite honest, I put together an amazing team at this library and have hired probably 100 people over the last 12 years. And it has always, I have asked for cover letters for every single position. And that is that is a big determination in who we decide we are interested in interviewing and going forward with. So I'll update you. I'll let you know how it's going. This was sort of a last, just happened today. So anyway, that's where we are. And we don't have library operations anywhere on this agenda, but I just wanted to tell you, seeing as Lydia she attended the department head meeting this morning, the town department head. But this is, I don't know if you can see, but this is our daily curbside roster. Every single day, every single spot is taken. This was last week's, they were going to throw it out, and I said, no, give it to me so I can, this is all 5 days. And this is only going to get, we're opening up Saturdays after Martin Luther King weekend. So that'll be great because a lot of people will be able to fill those slots. But this happened very quickly. We went from having maybe 5 curbside because people were coming into the library, and we would have maybe 5 or 6 curbside slots filled every single day. And within no time whatsoever, we're up to every single slot filled in a day or two in advance. So we are really, really busy. We taught people how to you know, either download digital books and get everything through streaming or electronically, or figure out how to get it from the library. I've had people call me or write to me because they, for some reason, always wait to push 8, which I think is my extension on the, I don't know which one I am, Casey, but, oh, let's ask the director. So I get phone calls 24/7 on my cell phone because I have them forwarded. So all the time in Florida, I'm, you know, taking these phone calls, and I get emails, and they say, is there any way you can tell me what you have? You know, I'm not really comfortable looking in the catalog. Is there any way somebody can pick some books out for me? And sure enough, what we do is I forward that on to Liz or Patty Bailey, or I usually forward it on to about 5 or 6 people, and somebody jumps at it and says, I will help them. And we're getting books to people that way. So we will be doing more and more and more of that as the month of February goes on. And maybe even, hopefully not into the future. I mean, hopefully there's an end to this, you know, at some point this spring, or, you know, late spring. So anyway, we figured out, and our patrons have figured out, we figured out how to let them know, and they've figured out how to use us best during this. And they are just craving material. And I don't know, Lydia, you might want to update people on our digital resources. We have not upped the limits on any of the Hoopla or RB Digital or anything like that since we closed again.
No, we haven't, and we're still staying pretty steady. The budget is in good shape. We're at about 50-50 on the materials budget, including the e-resources, which is where we want to be halfway through the year. So I'm still reluctant to up the allowance for Hoopla and Canopy, just because of how much it skyrocketed when we did that last time and the effect that it had on the budget. But if we start getting complaints that people need more, then we could still end up doing that.
DVD circulation is way, it's been dropping for years, but it's way down now. I think because COVID has forced people to use our material, our digital resources, and maybe some of the other libraries' digital resources. But I think a lot of people have had to sign on to, you know, the memberships to things like Netflix and the rest of them. Disney, for families, I would imagine most people, you know, have had to do that. So our DVD numbers are way down, and you'll have a statistical report because none of the numbers were in by the time the packet was put together, but you'll have the full 2020 statistical and circulation report for the next board meeting. I'll have that in the packet, and you can take a look at that, and you'll see those numbers for physical DVDs way down. Okay.
Anything else? Questions, comments on any of those reports? Seeing none, we're up to trustee appointment. I mentioned the overview on the schedule and the candidate for the couple of months of Leah's remaining term that precede the upcoming election.
It's 2 months. It will be February and March.
Right. And I had hoped that our recommended candidate, Joe Greeley, would be here, but he doesn't seem to have made it. But we have 3 people here who have expressed potential interest in running for the full year remaining at the end. And we introduced them earlier, but I would like to take a little time now to give each of them a chance to say something about themselves, their interest in the library, any questions they want to ask us that we're all here together. And if that's okay with the group, I will go in alphabetical order. And I think, Eric, you're first, whether it's first name or last name.
Okay, I thank you for putting me on the spot here, John. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
So I'm Eric Bodenhofer. I am an attorney by trade. I work for Reebok. I've been a Norwood resident now for 19 years, and I've spent some time volunteering kind of throughout town, starting with my kids and their, youth sports. I'm a town meeting member. I was on the rules committee for town meeting 2 years ago, which is how I got to know John. And despite that, he invited me to look into this as well. So my interest in the library, I mean, I'm a pretty voracious reader. I always have been. I think having a library like ours is a real asset to the community. I don't use it as much as I would like, and certainly COVID has made that even harder. But I love the building. I've always thought it's just a great asset to the town. And when John said you guys were sort of looking for someone to fill a hole, I thought I'd give it some thought. So here I am. And I don't really have any questions at the moment. This all seems fairly straightforward, but I'm sure something will pop into mind as we move along.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Mary Paz.
I thought it was going to be Shannon. Hi, I'm Mary Paz. I have just one name. I grew up in Norwood. I was born in Norwood, grew up here. I did kind of wander off for a couple of decades and came back. My very first job when I was 16 was at the Norwood Library. I was a page, and I think now I'm old enough to be a whole book, but at the time I was a page. Let me see, and I know some of the people at the library, and I actually got a job for fill-in, kind of a substitute. And I worked one whole day before COVID. So that was kind of interesting that COVID impacted. But at any rate, my background, I'm an artist, but my background professionally, I was director of a couple of children's museums. I've worked on strategic plans, helped implement them. And I always found that very fascinating. I've done a little bit of consulting, just helping people and nonprofits figure out where they're going to be going. Currently, I work, let me see if you can see it, as a shopper for Whole Foods, and for Amazon and Whole Foods. So I'm keeping active. Let's see what else. I'm living in Norwood now. Actually renting an apartment from my cousin. She owns this house, but she's selling it. So I'm going to be looking around Norwood for another place. And I have 2 kids, a cat, and as for libraries, I was going to say, Clayton, I lived in Quincy for a year, and you have a fantastic, I mean, you're not, they're going to be there, fantastic library. I just think it's gorgeous. And I can see why you want to come to Norwood, because we have a gorgeous library too. And went through some of the same kind of changes that you did up there with, additions and keeping the main part of the old building intact. So anytime I've moved, which I have about 20 times, sadly, the first thing I've done in every new town or city is to go get a library card, because to me, that is the center of any kind of town. If you're going to be I can tell what the whole city or town is like, depending on how they fund their libraries. And I just love them, so I've been around long enough to have taken records, LPs out of libraries. So, but anyhow, I do, that is a passion. I'm very excited that there is this. I'm very sad because I adored Leah. She was an amazing woman. But I'm looking forward to hopefully working with you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Paz. Shannon.
Yes, thanks so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. I moved to Norwood. I'm probably the newest person, about 5 years ago. I have a 5-year-old daughter who's in pre-K at St. Catherine's School. My husband is an English teacher, so our house is very much filled with books. And I've worked in both project management and policy in the transportation and change space. I'm an employee at the Massachusetts Department of Transportation doing climate change policy now. But I mean, when we moved to Norwood, I would say that the library was the first place that we really started to go to, both to meet new people and to run into neighbors or kids from my daughter's school. We, of course, spend a lot of time in the children's section, but we've attended a lot of lectures and presentations for various organizations in the Simone room, left flyers for events that I was volunteering for that we've supported. The book sale, obviously, is always a really big one. And we've been enjoying the children's pop-up library that's been taking place at some of the schools since COVID started. So it's been really impressive how the staff has been able to pivot and continue to provide services to everybody, even if the library is not open full time. So I feel like it's really a hub of community activity in Norwood, and we've benefited from the services quite a bit since we moved here. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to start to give back and hopefully make sure those services are available to everybody else in the community. So no questions at the moment, but it's been very informative tonight to join you.
Well, thank you, Shannon, and thanks everybody. Anybody have anything else on this item? Seeing none, we go up to Simone Foundation, and I think we covered that, didn't we, Charlotte?
Donna's
So-
got her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Donna.
I just had a comment. I'm listening to these three people tell us who they are, and I'm thinking how absolutely difficult it would be for them to run for this office if they had to conform with what Charlotte has to put up with the people that are trying to be IT director or not IT, but you know what I mean, the people that you're going to have to interview.
Yeah.
Yes, no comment, but I'm nodding my head. Search warrants.
There were none.
Any miscellaneous advisories?
No, I touched on that already with what we heard from Tony today, that we may be closed through February. What a time for Clayton to start with the library closed. It's been an interesting year, right, Clayton?
It certainly has. It's unparalleled for sure.
So now we've reached the part that is euphemistically called staff or public remarks. And what this is we go around the room and ask what everybody's been reading lately. And we start with the people who are not on the board. And so I will go through and ask people who are on the panel before me to say, what have they been reading lately? And Brian, I'm starting with you.
I listened to the audiobook of the Tattooist of Auschwitz, which was very difficult, but really, really excellent. And I would recommend the audiobook too. It was very, very well done.
Thanks. Charlotte?
I actually haven't been reading much at all. I've been doing a lot of knitting and watching CNN.
Fair enough. Casey?
I've been reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It's
You muted yourself. You muted. No, Casey.
Casey.
I muted myself
There we
again.
go.
I've been reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It's a memoir and not something I normally read, but I was reading it for bingo. And I'm actually really enjoying it. It's very good. She's basically posing that women follow a certain structure based on certain gender norms and what we've always been told is right, that we are meant to be mothers and wives and leaders of our community, but really we should be following our heart and we should be listening to the inner voice inside of us and making choices that would make us happy instead of what we think we should be doing. So it's been a challenging read and I've liked it. I've liked it a lot.
Okay. Sarah?
Lydia?
My turn?
Actually,
Okay.
Sarah to go next. She comes up next on my board here.
Oh,
I thought you wanted to have staff before board.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. My mistake. So yes, Lydia, you're next.
Okay, well, I'm I'm really entrenched in a book, a true crime book about the serial killer Israel Keys, but I will spare you the details on that. No, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But I wanted to recommend as kind of a gift book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse.
it's graphic
Someone,
novel.
Nancy Ling. It's interesting. It's kind of an art book. It's like these illustrations and sort of inspirational passages. So it was given to me. Nancy Ling actually gave it to me, I think, because somebody gave it to her, one of her daughters, for Christmas, and it's just really, really beautiful. So if you need a gift for somebody, if there's a kid going off to college, or if there's somebody you know who's going through a tough time or something, it's just so inspirational and so beautiful. It's just absolutely lovely. I know it was on some gift book lists this Christmas. I highly recommend it.
Great. Thank you. Let's go through our guests. Mary Paz, you reading anything?
Yeah, this is funny that you would catch me at this book because it's very unusual. My sister sent it to me and I just finished it, and it's called A Good Good Pig by Cy Montgomery. And it's a very, very fun and kind of touching read. It's about Cy and her husband adopting this piglet that was definitely going to die. And of course, it didn't. And he lived to be 13, which is unusual. He lived 12 and a half years more than his siblings because they're murdered at the age of 6 months. I'm sorry, I don't eat pork. But Cy Montgomery has written a number of books, and she's traveled the world. And it's just a really neat book. And matter of fact, my sister sent me this for Christmas too. Well, not even for Christmas, just for fun. It's a little pig. And she and I are both, I mean, pigs are smarter than dogs, and I wouldn't eat a dog. And I saw piglets playing one day, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. Anyhow, I recommend reading it because it is just a really nice insight into her and her relationship with the pig. And he loves spas, and the neighbors would come over, and it's just very fun. I'd like to read some of her other books. I know she's written one on octopus and other things, but it's a fun read. I belong to a couple of book clubs, and so before I go to one of their books next, I figured I would read A Good Good Pig.
Okay, Clayton, stop that.
John, did you call on me? I'm having some connectivity issues.
Oh, yes, I was inviting you to try to top what Mary Paz just did.
Well, I'm not in the competition here at all. That sounds like a great book. Right now I'm reading Cast, The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. I've had the Warmth of Other Suns on my shelf for a long time as an aspirational read. And maybe I'll actually crack it open after I finish this because I'm really enjoying it. It looks at, it's a comparison of race, of caste in this country, which has, and parallel, or look, it's a comparative study with that and caste over millennia in India and the accelerated caste system that the Nazis put into motion. It's rather intense. It's taking a lot of things that we've thought about for a long time, but just kind of bringing it with a new lens. I'm finding it a very timely read right now, and giving me just an interesting perspective on some of the power challenges we're seeing across this country. So I would highly recommend it if you. It's a journalist writing about history.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of books by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and most of her stories take place around the time of Nigerian War, Civil War, most recently Americana. And with my daughter, we got a book called And the People Stayed Home, based on a poem that was written about the pandemic by Kitty O'Meara, I think it was. And it's a really beautifully illustrated, calm, slow reflection on the past year or so.
Good. Eric? Eric?
Yes, sorry, I had to get myself off mute. I think the book I most recently finished is called A Woman of No Importance by Sonia Purnell. And it's the true story of Virginia Hall, who was a Baltimore socialite who became kind of one of the leading figures in the French resistance during World War II, and is largely kind of credited with some of the biggest successes of the French resistance. And she stayed in country despite the fact that her face was on wanted posters all over. And then finally forced to escape, she crossed the Pyrenees during winter, which was even more remarkable because she had a wooden leg. And then even after having escaped, she went back in to help lead kind of a guerrilla war once the Allies had actually landed on French soil. So just truly, truly fascinating, and a figure in history that I had no idea existed until the book landed on my desk, courtesy of my father-in-law. So really interesting read.
I love the diversity we're seeing here. Going to the board now, Sarah.
I'll unmute myself again. I am currently listening to an audiobook entitled Peace is Every Step. And Casey, I'll send you the author's name because I'm not sure I can pronounce it. But it seemed like a very good choice at this point with everything going on. It's about the mindfulness in everyday life and seeking first to create that peace within your own circle. And I am definitely enjoying it very much.
Great. Marguerite?
I just finished The River by Peter Heller. He wrote The Dog Stars. It's a great harrowing story about these two kids that were friends in college, and they decided as young adults that they would take a trip down this river in Canada. And they ran into a wildfire and then came upon a murder, and it was just a frightening book with just a insightful book into what happened to them along the way, and it wasn't pretty. But the book that I read that really touched me was Once I Was You, and it's a autobiography by Maria Hinojosa. It's a memoir of love and hate in a town of America. She was born in Mexico, and then was, as a young child, 3 years old, was brought up in the south side of Chicago, and she was a well-renowned journalist in America for 30 years, and she reported on how this society. She mostly reported on society, and then as she aged out of journalism, she went and opened a Mexican American Mexican talk show in California during the time that the wall was being built, and her stories were remarkable. So it was quite a story. Timely, once again. So many stories are coming out nowadays. We're just being flooded with stories that you would think would just bring you down, but there's such inspiration in them that you can just find pearls in all of this darkness, and we need it. So I liked it.
I'd like to say that Marguerite found out today that happily, she wondered why she had gotten a book on curbside, because there were 96 holds on it.
Yeah.
And she found out that the best part about it is the 96 holes could be somewhere else in Minuteman. Hers was only one of 96 in Minuteman, and because she lives in Norwood, she got the Norwood book, and she was absolutely thrilled.
Well, I have Shuggy Bain, and I'm very happy about it. I'll start it tonight.
Great.
It's good. Donna. Unmute. Unmute yourself.
I just finished a book that that Leah had recommended in a previous meeting, Being Mortal, and like Sarah, I can't pronounce the name of the author. But it's about alternatives to nursing homes and things like that. That was very interesting. And I also have reading the Baker's Creek Heirloom Seed Catalog, which has beautiful photography. And that's much nicer to read.
Yeah.
George.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've not had time to read this last few weeks here, which coincidentally, I've been working on formatting a book for my brother-in-law. But the interesting part, it's in Portuguese, so I'm not fluent in that language. So it's been interesting, a lot of back and forth.
Okay, I think we're up to me. I had something else planned for tonight, but I realized what I'm about to tell you is a little more timely. Most of you know that I've been working for more than a year on developing timelines and the like related to Norwood's forthcoming 150th anniversary. I've got a couple hundred pages of material in various forms and formats. And what I decided I wanted to do as an additional format was to find quotable lines from books published in the year that we were founded, 1872. And in the process of picking out what those are, I was struck by how differently authors of every country wrote back then. There were a lot of sweeping statements of philosophy dropped in as ordinary narrative and the like. In some cases, they took up the entire book. So I'll just give you the half dozen titles that I've initially picked as sources for these quotes. There's only one of them that I think is still widely known today, and that's Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. The second best known book, I think, on the list is Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, one of the oldest horror fantasy novels, and I think it's a vampire novel from before Dracula was written. And I see Brian nodding, so I think I may have that.
Yep.
The third one, which is people know of it but don't necessarily know it, is Erewhon by Samuel Butler. It's a sort of a quasi-utopian dystopian novel, and the title Erewhon is a reversed anagram of nowhere. And so he's making a lot of comments about ideal societies and other societies and such. It's almost nothing but wall posters every single line of the book. So I think that's going to work for my purposes very well. There are two others that are young adult books. One of them is from what turned into a series called What Katie Did, that I don't think anybody knows these days. And the other is by George MacDonald called The Princess and the Goblin. I don't know if that's more familiar.
Yeah, that was 1872.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the strangest one so far that I'm intrigued to see if I can come up with anything usable from it. It was written in Spanish and in verse, and then translated into English and published. And it's called Martin Fierro the Gaucho by Jose Hernandez. And it has a lot of sort of culture specific sexist things, but what it mainly is this depiction of a guy who's living the hard life of a gaucho and encountering various things along the way, and he manages to do full detailed narration in verse form, which seems like a real notable skill. So you may or may not see pull quotes from any or all of these 6 books that I discover along the way. If I can ever get my big packet together and have it reach a large audience. So I will close on that. Your packet included information on all the upcoming meetings. And I'll just mention again that the probable next meeting is a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on January 26th. So that's 2 weeks from tonight. And that will be the meeting at which we will discuss candidates for the last 2 meetings, last 2 months of this year's fiscal year's term that Leah O'Leary left. And our next board meeting will be February 9th, 2021. You know, there's a joke line in How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, which I think might apply to Clayton showing up at that meeting on his second day. The head of the company starts the meeting by announcing that the protagonist has been named Vice President of Advertising. And about 10 minutes later, he says, and up to now, I'm not that thrilled with your work. Described as a position that never gets anything but flack, and that couldn't describe our library directorship, but that's the way my mind works. So there it is.
Don't worry, Clayton. Don't take it seriously.
Oh, I'm not. I'm just looking forward to it.
John,
Yeah.
what time is the meeting on January 26th?
They start at 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And although this isn't technically a meeting of both groups, but I think it will be folded into a regular Board of Selectmen's meeting. So we'll be there only for a brief part of the meeting. And that might be at the beginning, or it might be at some other time.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll get enough advance notification on that people's schedules will not be thrown up in the air.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else for the good of the order?
Yes.
Well,
Please.
first, I'd like to say that while I haven't really been reading, I did scour the whole house in the last couple of days for all 12 books that Jerry and I had attempted to finish, and returned them all to the library, so I have a perfectly clean record.
Good on you.
I'm done, Marguerite.
Tonight is Charlotte's last night with all of us. So I just want to take this time to say, I'm going to try to say how much we just are going to miss you, and how sad we are to see you go, but how happy we are that you're going out healthy, happy, having your whole life ahead of you. And want to thank you so much for the last 12 years for all you've done, not just for the library, but for every person that's walked through the library. Every single person, every single patron, every single employee, for everything you've done for Minuteman, for the everybody in the Massachusetts Library Association, the ALA, everybody whose life you've touched in the library. You've meant so much to so many people. You've done a yeoman's work.
Well, thank you. And Marguerite did drop off your gift to me today, which I have in front of me, which we won't. It's a personalized, see, Marguerite, you get me going, but it's a box with a image of the library, personalized.
Did you open it?
Put all my treasures in from my professional career.
Did you open it?
What's that? No, I didn't open it yet.
open it because I don't think everyone saw it.
Well, you have it wrapped so beautifully.
I learned how to make a bow on YouTube just for you.
So, if anybody wants to see. And there's a card, which I assume is, has been signed by, I don't know, maybe just Marguerite.
No,
No,
everybody, of course. And I'm sure
Well-
all the trustees that went before us wish they were on that card. So you can just pretend they all signed it because in spirit, I'm sure they all did. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this is the traditional, Eglamise is the company that supplies all of the colleges with mirrors and various things. And 12 years ago, Susanna Petro, who was chairman of the board of the trustees, worked with Shrump, Creve, and Shrump.
Free crump and loaf?
Help me. Creve and, I don't know why I can't say it, but I know who they are. And they worked on a beautiful rendition of the library, which we have given for the last 12 years to everybody who has served more than 10 years or more at the library. And we've probably given at least 20 mirrors and boxes, maybe even 30. And so this is mine, which is a box that I decided, I already have a mirror from Eglamise because I have a Simmons College one that somebody gave me as a gift. So this is a box where I'll be able to keep, I don't know, my professional stuff that I decide to put in there. So thank you. And it's been a pleasure. And Sarah being the, the only person who was on the board when I was hired, I'd like to say thank you, Sarah, because it's been a great 12 years.
It has. It truly has.
Had its ups and downs, but it's been really wonderful. So
They were our growth experiences, Charlotte.
and we're still growing, and I'm sure Clayton will have more. We'll have more of them that come as we, as the library becomes more of a part of the town.
We could avoid some of the ones we shared, though.
Yeah.
Well, they say men are different than women because they favor more physical kinds of expressions. So let me be the one to perhaps invite everyone a sitting ovation for our much beloved director, Charlotte.
And maybe I can make the motion to adjourn.
Technically, no, but sure, why not?
So I make a motion to adjourn.
We
And
all
I'll
Get
second.
a second and a third.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to go by roll call here. All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Yeah.
Charlotte.
Thank you, Charlotte.
We're all,